And now there is news. Another base used by the U.S. military in Syria has come under rocket attack today. We'll be following that.
And let's bring right now National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications at the White House, retired Rear Admiral John Kirby. He joins us from Ottawa, Canada, where President Biden's visiting for talks with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. We'll get to those talks in a minute. But first, Admiral, 78 attacks from Iran since 2001. Maybe we need to step up our response. What's going on?
It's clear that these Iran-backed groups, these militant groups that Tehran is supporting, they don't want to see the United States presence in Iraq. They don't want to see it in Syria, and they're retaliating. They're acting out to try to limit our ability to continue to go after ISIS in both those countries and to try to force our hand to leave. And as you'll hear from us today and tomorrow, that mission against ISIS is still viable. It's still vital. It's still important, and we're going to stay at that.
Well, what price does Iran pay for continuing to supply drones that target U.S. service men and women and kill Americans?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, they paid a price last night with these retaliatory strikes that the president ordered, and they'll continue to pay that kind of cost if they continue to strike and attack our facilities and our people. We're not going to shy away from protecting them best we can. In the aggregate, what I would tell you is that we're also going to stay vigilant to all of Iran's destabilizing activities. Today, we're talking about their support for these militant groups. But in the past, you and I have been talking about how they're providing drones to Mr. Putin so he can continue to slaughter innocent Ukrainians, how they're supporting terrorist groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, how they're threatening maritime shipping, and how they're burgeoning. They got a burgeoning ballistic missile program that could threaten their neighbors throughout the Middle East. And so the United States is going to stay focused on also the greater aggregate problem of Iran's destabilizing behavior by making sure we have a strong military presence that remains in the Middle East and that it remains ready. And you heard from General Kurilla yesterday, the commander of U.S. Central Command, when he was testifying about his readiness posture and about how vigilant he is staying to that threat.
Admiral, good morning. As you just mentioned, as we reported a minute ago, another base used by United States military in Syria was attacked as well. Is there a concern that this is some kind of a concerted effort, that American troops might be under attack today?
So two things here, Willie. I mean, as Joe rightly said, and we have suffered attacks from these militant groups now for quite some time in various formats. What you saw last night is very much an initial response reaction by some of these militant groups. It is not uncommon when we take a retaliatory strike like this for them to answer right back with some ineffective rocket fire. And these were largely completely ineffective. I mean, nobody was hurt, no U.S. casualties at all. It was a sort of an instinctual reaction that we get from these militant groups whenever we do this kind of thing. But that said, we obviously are going to stay vigilant for any other responses from Iran or from their militant groups in Syria, in Iraq. We're staying very, very closely in tune with that. We're monitoring it very closely.
Admiral, good morning. It's Jonathan here. Obviously, you are in Ottawa. The president is as well. His first visit to Canada since taking office. We know he's going to address Parliament later today. He'll hold a news conference with Prime Minister Trudeau. Give us a little sense as to the agenda there for the president's visit, and in particular, the deal that has reached to close a loophole about asylum seekers at unofficial ports of entry on the border. Give us a rundown, please.
You know, there are more people on the move in the Western Hemisphere, Jonathan, right now than since World War II. It's really staggering and it's historic. And, of course, our two countries are facing the impacts of that. I have absolutely every expectation that Prime Minister Trudeau and President Biden will talk about migration challenges. I'm not going to get ahead of specifics or what they might say when they come to the cameras after those meetings. But we are working in lockstep with the Canadians to try to deal with this from a regional perspective, not just along the northern border or the southern border of the United States, but really across the hemisphere. We have to take a holistic view. That will be front and center on the agenda today, as will climate change, as will trade, and boosting our ability to bring clean energy jobs here to North America to deal with the transition to a clean energy economy. I have every expectation that they'll spend some time talking about Ukraine and how Canada and the United States continue to support Ukrainian forces in the field. And I certainly expect Haiti will come up, Jonathan. As you know, the situation there remains dire. Canada and the United States continue to provide humanitarian and economic assistance to Haitian authorities. And, of course, we're still talking to the Canadians as well as other allies and partners about the viability of what might be an international security force under UN auspices to go down there and try to help alleviate some of the security challenges on the island.
John Kirby, it's Jen Psaki. First, I want to get you some earmuffs because you look very cold in Canada. But that aside, I wanted to ask you about the Iran nuclear deal, which, of course, Donald Trump pulled out of, took away the visibility for the United States. Obviously, that doesn't look quite viable at this point. But is the president, where's the president's head at thinking about what the path forward is for that? Is there a path forward for that, especially given these attacks?
A great question, Jen. Right now, the Iran deal is really not on our agenda. We are much more focused on trying to hold the regime accountable for the way they're treating their people and for the way they're supporting Putin in Ukraine, sending drones to kill innocent Ukrainians. And, of course, we're also focused, as I said earlier, on the larger spate of destabilizing activities of Iran in the region, including their support for these militant groups. So right now, given the way the regime is responding and the fact that they larded up the final conversations we were having about the JCPOA with items that had nothing to do with their nuclear ambitions, nothing to do with the original deal. It was clear that they weren't negotiating in good faith. And so we just put that aside. We're not focused on that. Now, that said, the president still believes that Iran should not have a nuclear armed capability. He still believes that diplomacy is the best way to prevent that. Right now, diplomacy is not the path forward. So he has made it clear to the rest of the national security establishment in the administration that we've got to make sure we have the kinds of capabilities in place to deal with it outside of diplomacy if it comes to that. Hopefully it won't. By the way, congrats on a great show. Real proud of you.
Oh, it's huge.
All right. White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby, thank you. That was for Jen Psaki. That's very nice. Thank you, Admiral.